Five, four, three, two, one. Great morning, everybody. This is Dr. Larry White Sr. broadcasting live from the Dr. Larry White Sr. Show. And listen, it's a Saturday morning. It's early, and I just want to let everybody know I'm thinking about you, praying for you and your families. I pray that you're doing the same for me as we continue to go through this pandemic of COVID-19. And just remember that you are not stuck at home. You are safe at home. Amen. I wanted to just talk briefly about the new book. It's out there. Thank you, Mary Mitchell, coming up shortly for purchasing a new book. And just remember, always operate in excellence, okay? As of midnight, the book is now available on Amazon via ebook. So the ebook is out there for you all. And my pride and joy, it's still going great. I think we can see that one. All right. The Ultimate Networking Entrepreneur. And that's why we do the show, to engage people, make them aware of things. I have some dynamic folks on the show. Queen Mother Mary's getting ready to come on board. We've got Marcus Boyd. I was not aware that this was Autism Awareness Month. So my bonus mother, Queen Mother Mary, knowledged me up and told me what was going on. And I said, well, we got to do a show. We got to do a workshop. So here we are. We're here for you all today, everybody. The show, I say this, you see the sign in the back. It's never about me, but it's about you all and what we can give the information. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to my DMV Mastermind leadership person, Mary Mitchell, to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about autism and her special guest today. Mary Mitchell.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here today, and thank you, Dr. Larry, for allowing me to talk about something that's very, very passionate to my heart. And I hope that I can draw people in to not only realize what's going on with autism, but just to, want to reach out to someone that has autism and just give them a big hug, because and if they back off from you, then you understand. Well, as Dr. Larry said, I am Mary E.S. Mitchell, also known as Queen Mother Mary, and I'm one of the people that have multiple little things going on at one time. Dr. Larry always teases me because he says I'm retired, but I think that means that I'm working harder than I ever do, because I do things that I'm passionate about. One of which is my media company, Chrysalis Studios, and I'm working with people so that they can tell their story, and especially people from an Afrocentric perspective, because I think that our story doesn't begin when we're getting off a slave ship. It goes much beyond that. It goes into a rich cultural history that starts on the African continent, and you'll hear more about a trip that I'm planning to Ghana. But in addition to that, I do things like insurance. I'm a registered nurse, case manager, all sorts of things. But one of the most important jobs that I have is that of being a grandmother to a young man named Elijah. And Elijah has autism. He has ASD, autism spectrum disorder. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And at the end of this, maybe by listening to Marcus, and hopefully we'll get Mike on, we'll be able to understand a little more about what it's like to live in that world. And the best person to tell that story is the person who knows that story. So I look forward to hearing from our guest today. And Dr. Larry, is there anything else we want to talk about right now?
Look, first of all, I want to commend you, for being transparent. I had an opportunity to meet Elijah at one of our meetings, and I wasn't sure what to say or just to understand what was going on. Actually, I met him twice, once at the photo shoot with Patricia McDougall, and just a nice young man. And also at one of our meetings with Natalie DeGraffenreid, who just sent me a note. I'm going to build her website here in a little bit. But it's And I'm gonna just say this really quickly as we go over to Marcus, and thank you so much for the intro. It's like COVID-19 right now, there's so many underlying illnesses that African Americans are dealing with, and we're dying at a higher rate than other ethnic backgrounds. And I I had a young lady, shout out to, I'll tag her, but shout out to Dr. Amanda Carter, who held a autism awareness workshop of some years back. I was a part of it, and I didn't know what it meant or what the signs were, and so we brought her back again to teach, not just African Americans but the entire community on autism awareness. So we disconnected for a while. She went and got married and traveled the world, and now she's back. But then you came into my life and said, this is something dear to me that I'm facing. You didn't have to do this show. You could just take care of your family and say, hey, we're good. I got it under control. But I commend you, Queen Mother Mary, ES, all that good stuff, for just sharing your platform with me so we can educate the world. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you, because this is a topic that I'm not well versed at it at all. I will just moderate certain things and tell you who's listening in, but I turn it back over to you, Mary.
Okay. Well, like I said, my grandson, Elijah, does have autism, and he is 13 years old. And the whole thought of someone having something that you're not too aware of what's going on, not aware of how you can help them, not even aware of whether they need help or not, is kind of interesting. So I thank him for being a part of my life, because he's teaching me something new every day. And autism is something that, according to the CDC, it is very prevalent in our community, but it's also something that's prevalent throughout the world. There are different countries that keep statistics, and it is something, a disorder, and it can be called a disorder for two purposes. One, because it's classified that way, but also when something has been classified, it helps people to get help from organizations that specifically address that disorder. So sometimes the words itself make people a little hesitant about wanting to be a part of that or wanting to be identified with that. But it also enables a person to get help from, especially from our medical community. Autism affects boys, men, more so than females, and that's consistent throughout the world. And there are certain steps that show different ethnic groups have a higher propensity for that. But I told you about my love in Africa. A lot of statistics are not clear in Africa, not because the disease or this disorder is not there, it's to the way that the information is captured is not quite on the same level that some of the Western cultures are. So you get different information. You get people that are talking about, well, if I had immunization that causes autism, none of that pans out. And so we have to go with what's real and what's used to classify a person with autism. Is, you'll see ASD, which has a lot to do with the way a person develops. It has to do with their communication skills, their socialization, and things like that. So I'll just use Elijah for an example. He was born, he was doing ordinary things, and there are different milestones, such as being verbal, responding to things. And when you notice that there's something a little bit off, but you can't get your hand right around it, you want to keep engaged with the doctors and everything. And there's a lot of help out there for parents, but I can safely say that for the secondary members of the family, maybe not so much. And me as a grandparent, I was like, well, I don't know exactly what's going on. So you have to go a little deeper. And actually, Eliza has caused me to start writing a book for those secondary people in their lives. And so an example for him would be, he only responded to certain things. Now, his thing is automobiles, and he'll say to you, I am a automobile enthusiast. And we noticed that even like with his baby blanket, he only responded to the ones that had pictures of cars on it. So that's his one thing. But you know, the mobiles in the cribs, the way he walks, with his development of speech, the way he processed things, the way he ate certain foods, the way he responded to certain textures. And originally, we were going to have a show in Atlanta, and one of our guests was going to be Mikkel. And Mikkel does a show called Old Jordan, and it has a story about him at a family reunion, and they wanted him to put on a shirt. And he was texture sensitive. So the scratchy is called the scratchy shirt because he can only wear certain clothes. And the other thing, he gets hyper aware of the sensitivity to something. So things like a shirt and tie or certain clothes he can't wear, he can't tolerate. So you know, that you have to be aware when you're getting to know these very, very unique people, that there are certain things that they simply can't tolerate. My grandson Elijah can't tolerate certain foods. He doesn't like the texture, the way it feels in his mouth. He doesn't like a lot of sounds. I used to take him to the store, and he could hear almost every conversation in the store from everyone. And the way that I found this out was when he learned to speak, he would be able to tell me what someone in the corner was saying, you know, verbatim. And can you imagine getting all that sensory input all at one time? Certain smells, certain things that, you know, that just would ordinarily you walk in a room wouldn't affect you. But for a person who has a different type of sensitivity, it becomes an awareness that you have to be able to embrace and realize that they may not respond the same way that you do. It took a long time for us to get him to be able to talk. He thought he was saying the words and couldn't understand why we couldn't understand what he was saying. You know, there are all sorts of things that are signals, and hopefully, if the parents or the family members are aware, or even teachers sometimes are aware of how they respond differently to the environment, how they communicate, how they there's a thing called stemming, where
Well, Mary, if I may interject, because I know we got a lot of time. I think this is a perfect time to introduce Marcus. We're going to get back to your personal
yeah,
involvement, but
absolutely. I think it's, you know, the best person to tell the story about what this is like is a person who's having that experience. And so, Marcus, yeah, can you come on and tell us a little bit of what it's like to have those words attached to you?
Oh, okay. Can y'all see me? Can y'all see me?
yes, that's perfect. Marcus, stay about right there because there was a little bit of a glare we had.
Okay.
Like there's a glare. That's perfect right there.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I am Marcus Boyd, and I was born with autism. And you know, I didn't start talking until I was 13 and a half at a 2-year-old's level. And when they took my foster grandmother and my real biological grandmother, when they took me to the hospitals and doctors, and it was like 3 to 4 different doctors said the left side of my brain wasn't functioning correctly. I would need an adult caregiver to clothe me, to feed me, I would never get the proper education because of my level of, because my brain waves is not functioning in the average way of thinking. And like Miss Mary, like Mother Mary said, you know, this stuff is, yes, stuff, a lot of stuff is different and it's off. So for me, as a music producer, I still don't like certain loud sounds. I still don't like certain colors. For example, um, you know, pink, purple, orange, which I got like an orange little night suit, but I only can wear it like once a month instead of once every other day. So like it's just certain things and certain foods for me as well. Broccoli, kale, bananas, grapes, it does something to me. I don't like the way they feel in my mouth, and I don't like, it's the texture of it. So it does something to me and my thought patterns. And like Miss Mary said, my thing was music. So that's how I communicated, because my grandmother put me in church choir. She put me in band camp. So, growing up in Brooklyn, that was my out with band camp. So she expressed that, since I was chubby and I couldn't run from the police, that I needed to learn how to play an instrument. So, and then too, I'm about to be 38. So you saying somebody has autism? I got diagnosed in April 1993 when I was 10. So, you saying somebody has autism, it's like, no, he just got a demon. We need to pray that out or whoop it out of him or something. I probably went to like 20 altar calls. I think like 20 different pastors put their hands on my forehead and prayed and started speaking in tongues and stuff of that nature, and just said that he's just a bad kid. So we're not understanding why he's tearing up his room. We're not understanding why he having an emotional behavior. We're not understanding why he's scratching people, jumping on people, biting them. We're not understanding this. At a kid, and I was still doing this until I was 24. Again, I'm about to be 38. So I've been on every medication from Ritalin, Paxil, Depakote, Lithium, Seroquel, Zoloft. I mean, 1,000 milligrams per one. I had a behavior aid, a speech therapist. I had all of this stuff. I mean, a doctor. I had all this stuff until I was like 23, 24 years old. And, but still, it was like, for me, my path was different, because it's like I wanted to be accepted so bad. I wanted people to think I'm normal so bad. So what do I see? I see street activities. So I went towards street activities because I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be called normal. I wanted to be like, okay, don't say that I'm different, or don't classify me as those names, because I'm just like you. I didn't realize it until about 2 years, almost 2-3 years ago, that being who I am, God gave me a voice. God gave me a gift, and there's nothing wrong with who I am and what I am. And I need to use that and my testimony to help and inspire others.
Listen, Marcus, I want to ask you and Mary a question. I just learned so much, wow, in the past 10 minutes you and Mary been talking. So here's a question for both of you all. Shout out to Tajula Battle Lockhart, who's listening. Sir Charles Carey, when you see me going down like that, I'm pushing this out to people. I want them to hear what we got to say. Trisetta Alexander, amen, Marcus. So I'm multitasking to push this out so people can get the information. I have 2 questions for both of you all, and you all figure out who's y'all take one apiece. The first question I have, and then I'm gonna give both of y'all the opportunity, and y'all just piggyback off each other. Excuse me, or who gonna answer which question. The first question I have is, this a hereditary disease? How does in other words, like diabetes, high blood pressure, is autism hereditary throughout your families? Number 2, I want to talk about medication. My son was a really good kid. We were living in Europe. I was in the military, and when I went through my first divorce, he just shut down, and we didn't know what was going on. And so the first thing, and I have a lot of Caucasian friends, and I love them, but I think sometimes in public schools, some Caucasian teachers don't know how to teach African-American men, boys, and they wanted to put them in special education. And with that comes medication that would sometimes make you worse. So the question is this autism disease, is it hereditary? And does the medication of autism make you better? Because I know some medications, they don't make you better. They make you worse, and then you get addicted to them. So between the both of you, let's talk about this. Is this a hereditary disease? And also, how does the medication for autism work, and is it working?
Well, I'll just jump in there about the hereditary part because Elijah, actually, his doctors in Washington, D.C., they just signed him up for genetic studies and everything. So there's a lot of data that says that it is hereditary, but it may not be manifested as autism. And because it is something that is new on board as far as a diagnosis, we don't know because in my culture, there would always be someone that was acting a little strange and they would just say something wrong with that boy and put him in the back room. So now we're embracing differences in everyone, and so we're getting more information, much like I say from the CDC. And I guess Marcus, you can support that as well, and perhaps talk a little bit about the medication.
Yes, I do agree with her because, again, I was born with it. So my dad, my uncle, somebody had to have it, um, you know, when they was growing up. But again, my grandmother had what, 12, 16, some odd kids on my dad's side. So again, nobody was thinking like this boy has a problem. It's like what Mary said. Let's throw him in the back, put some church in him, slap some holy oil on him, and let God does his business. And I will say here on this live that medication is not the way. Do not. If any autistic parent out there is listening, do not slap your kids on medication just because you feel like there's a mood stabilizer, as something that's going to calm them down, as you don't have to worry about them for a little hour or two because they're going to be out your hair. No, they. I was addicted to pills for so long because I was on them from 5 to 24. So we talking about Ritalin, 1,000 milligrams, 2 pills a day. Paxil, 2 pills a day. Seroquel, 2 pills a day. I was zombified. So anytime somebody told me to do something, I did it with no problem. So they knew that the disciplinary actions of it was okay. They're gonna do what I say, not the long haul of it. Like I can't get off of it. I'm dependent on it. Like I need it. Medicine to me became my God because I was leaning on more medicine than I was leaning on God.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to chime in on that. Elijah still takes medication, but sometimes they have to change it around, and also sometimes they are when a person has ASD, that is coupled with attention deficit disorder. So they're treating both things. It's not mutually exclusive. You can have other things that are tied on to it, and then come issues with anxiety, depression, and things like that. And I'll say a case in point is like one of the key is behavior and communication. So if a person is sensitive to noises in a room, and they start doing the meltdown. That's what it's called, meltdown, and where people in the community might look at that child and say, "Why can't their parents get that child under control?" So someone's always trying to control what their experience is, but they're just experiencing the world a different way than we normal, what is it, neurotypical individuals respond. And so people want them to calm down to whatever they're experiencing in the room entirely different than what we are. And so it's us to learn, not to have to suppress that, but give them some alternatives. We do a lot with consequences. It says, okay, you can continue this behavior and here are the consequences, or you can choose to do this behavior. Do you need timeout? Do you need to go into the room where there's less stimulation and things? Because we know when he's getting ready to have a meltdown. And so it's a learning process. There are other
I,
things that you can do besides medication.
I will say this, Miss Mary, and Doctor, that my experience again is just coming from my experience. But if there are medications nowadays that's going to be able to help your children or whatever, if there's other ways for you to be able to talk to your children or do consequences like Miss Mary and her family is doing, then I support that in all shapes, form, and fashions. I'm just saying from my experience what not to do. Because again, I was on 7, 8 different medications at one time. Again, when they did the quiet room, when I went to Sexton Woods, that was a school in Atlanta. It was on Chamblee Tucker Boulevard. It was a school in Atlanta just for physical and mental disabilities. So they put us in a quiet room, a bubble door, the metal door for an hour, hour and a half, and stuff of that nature. And it was just their consequences to me was way too extreme. Yes, I had behavior issues. I did. That's why I had a behavior aid. And his name was Bob Ortner. For years, that's why I had this stuff, because I did have behavior issues. That's why I went to 16 to 17 different mental institutions. That's why I had electrical shock therapy, liquid pills, and everything else. My experience in the early 90s was not the way that you're supposed to treat autism as of today.
Listen, Marcus, first of all, you and Mary have, wow. I am like really blown away with this information. I have one more question for both of you. And then we're going to get your contact information so people can reach out to you. We got about 5 minutes left, and I told Mary we could go to 11 o'clock, but I think we need to continue to probably do this once a week for the whole month of April. Mary, just to have Marcus on if he's available. We can just
Dr. Larry, is there a way that you see Mike? He says he signed in, but he can't get through, because I just wanted to share a little bit of his story as well.
Tell him to send a request like Marcus and you did. I'm really good with this. And
that's okay. That's okay, because and like you said, we can definitely.
Well, just tell him to click on the join link, because
okay.
his request has not come through, because I would definitely approve it. But listen, I want to while Mary's doing that, first of all, Marcus, I want to thank you for being transparent. This is not to share your story, to tell us what's going on. I want to ask y'all a question. Is this predominantly in the African-American community, or is it with Caucasians? What's the numbers that you all could talk to me about from a Hispanic standpoint, African-American, Caucasian, how the autism, disease, is it primarily with African-Americans, or is it a same number as Hispanics or Caucasians? Can you all talk to me about that?
I don't know.
Go ahead, Mark.
What I was going to say was, I don't know the exact key estimated numbers, but I do know they say 7 out of 10. If this was, 7 out of 10 boys, gets autism or will have autism, and like Miss Mary said, it's more prevalent for boys than girls. And we talking. I know in Atlanta there's 1.5 million people that has autism, just in Atlanta alone. And there is Caucasians and Hispanics and other races that have autism. And it's not just for the African American community. It's worldwide, many different races and different things of that nature. But what we have to understand is, and like Ms. Mary's saying, we have to be able to find different ways to communicate with autism. We have to be able to spread awareness, and we have to be able to show that our people and our voices matter. Not just because it's a month. We have to do this more than a month. I've decided to become an activist so I can be an activist more than just a month.
Okay. Listen, again, I want to just thank you so much for giving us that information, primarily diagnosed with boys, no matter what the ethnic background is. And wow, 1.5 million people in Atlanta, that's huge. I did bring on Mike. Mike, can you hear us? Hey, Mike, there's Mike. Michael.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, man.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Listen, Mary, we only have about 5 minutes left, so let's see what you can do.
Okay.
In a minute, tell me a little bit about Mike, and then throw it over to Mike. We got about 5 minutes left before we have to wrap up. But I will say this is such an interesting topic, meaning understanding the symptoms, the medication, and more boys get it than girls. Man, I'm a lot more versed today than I was an hour ago. So we don't have enough time today to really get down to the nuts and bolts, but we're just scratching the surface. So if everybody's schedule works, let's do this every Friday for the whole month of April. Autism Awareness Month. Let's do this every Friday at 10 a.m. if your schedules permit. Now, we're not going to forget about this just because April goes away. We can do this into May. We'll be in Atlanta once this pandemic is over. Take about a minute, Mary, introduce Michael, and let's hear from Michael and give him a couple moments to just chit chat with us a little bit.
Okay, well, Mike and I met. Actually, I interviewed him for a radio show that I was doing, and he shared with me his success story. And the reason that I want people to meet such as Mike, we call him Hot Mike, is because he's been very successful in his field as well as Marcus. So Mike, just share with us some of the things that you're doing. I know that you worked a lot and are, in the music industry and in acting and everything, but just share with us your success, because that's what we're trying to do, is to show successful people who have made it through. So Mike, can you just share with us?
Absolutely. When I was a kid, I started out playing instruments. My parents were very musical, and that was a pattern that I kept seeing as my parents were playing music. So in my brain, I just felt like that was a normal thing. Let me just play music. So over the years, I learned different kinds of instruments on my own. I basically did my own research, and that's how I became a multi-instrumentalist at a very young age, I think starting at around 7 years old. When I joined the military, and this is a story that I'm writing right now, I'm actually writing a book about this experience. I was about 18 years old, and I met a young man who decided, this kid plays all these instruments. Now I'm very interested in learning about the music industry because of this kid. And this young man made it his mission to take me under his wing and try to do something in the music industry with me. Well, fast forward to the 90s, this person becomes MC Hammer. And I made the decision to just stick with him because his energy, his outgoing nature, none of that was me. I was completely the opposite. I was the guy in the background. I just did music. I stayed in the recording studio. And because of my hyper focus, that work ethic is what created in me the title of multi-platinum record producer and award-winning and all that other stuff. None of that was on purpose. That was just me doing work. And fast forward to now, nobody knows that story but you all. And I'm going to go in more depth with it in the book, but it is basically telling the story of the compassion that Hammer had for me because he noticed that I was different in how I behaved and how I did things. And then it's the story of also how I came to discover that I was on the autism spectrum because my focus was so linear. I didn't let anything disturb me from understanding music production. I mean, I built a recording studio from the ground up, like wire by wire. I was plugging, the whole 9 yards. So because I had that hyper focus, friends of mine in California had known me for 10 years. And they were like, we just found all this information on people who have Asperger's syndrome and autism, and you are that person. And they gave me all this information. I brushed it off, but I sent it all to my parents. And my mom literally called me up crying, going, this is actually how you were as a kid. You were always like this. And I brought it into my adulthood, still have challenges because I still have that linear thinking because it's a wiring thing. It's not you can't learn your way out of this. You literally have to have people around you that can help you navigate general neurotypical language. I have a team now that really is focused in on, we need to make sure that Mike's okay, because there's certain conversations he cannot have in terms of negotiating and doing things to make sure he makes a living. And I mean, so the struggles are real, but it's even worse for people of color, because the one thing we can't get rid of is our skin. People always see that first. And so whatever biases that people have of folks who are Black and look African, that comes first. But then when I say something, when I start speaking to people and they're like, sounds intelligent, sounds like, wow, so this dynamic is really strange for people. And having a team around me and a group of people who understand that and can temper that helps me, because I'm always focused on the work. I'm always focused on making sure things get done, my skill set, my very specific thing. So now that's what I try to explain to people, is that being on the spectrum is, for Black people, is more than just the autism part. It's more than just the wiring part. It's the actually being Black part, because it creates an energy that you literally have to fight against every day to stay energized, to stay healthy, to stay focused on what you need to do so that you can make a living, so that you can keep moving. And the one thing that I do appreciate about having been in the business is that it has allowed me to see lots of different behaviors and the way people treated each other and the way business was done and the way really awful people did business. So I got a chance to see all these different things and to understand that our world is not linear. Most people on the autism spectrum do not see outside of their linear focus. And even though I was focused, I got a chance to see a lot of other things which helped to round my ability to speak to people. It rounded my ability to open up a little bit more. So a lot of what you're hearing right now, me doing, is learned, it's observed. I know that if I speak a certain way, people will pay attention.
Yeah.
Because I learned that.
Well, Mike, here's the deal. We've got to get ready to end the show. And I want to tell you, that's absolutely amazing information. We got to bring you back. I have a round robin question for everybody to round out with your contact information. I want to just shout out Marcus Boyd and also you, Michael Buckholtz. Is that correct? Michael Buckholtz?
Yes.
All right, got it.
Everybody calls me Hot Mike, yeah.
All right. Amazing story with MC Hammer. I can't wait to read your book and make sure you keep pushing forward. I was, before you came on, I just talked about, I just wrote a couple books and Mary's Burden. So, make sure you take that story from here and put it into reading. And I can't wait to read it. Listen, I want to go over to Mike. Then I'm going to go back to, excuse me. Oh, we got Marcus. We'll go over to Marcus. I have a question for you, Marcus. Then back to you, Mike. Same question, and then Mary's going to round us out here. Marcus, for someone that's a two-part question, Marcus, and the same question is for you, Michael. Two-part question. For those people, individuals, I should say, that are going through autism and they're struggling, you talked to me about how they had you on the altar call, all these pastors praying over you. I mean, I'm a church guy, man, and I can imagine what that looked like, and they just didn't know what was going on. So Marcus, tell us, for those individuals just going through autism and they're struggling, how can they push through and fight? Because for you to get up here today, tell your story and talk about the meds, and you're able to cohabitate with corporate America that don't understand how to deal with a person that's facing autism. So two-part question. What advice would you give someone in their family? Because y'all mentioned it, this is just not, I love what Michael said, you need a support group around this, yourself. What advice would you give that individual and the family that's trying to push through, but they're about ready to give up? And then the fact that other people like myself that don't understand Why is this happening? How do I communicate with this person? Could you just talk to us in about a minute of what advice you could give folks that don't understand the disease and how they can understand it a little bit better to help, and also the family or individual that's going through that can push through? Because you could have easily gave up, Marcus and Michael. Man, both you guys, we're going to come to Atlanta. This is virtual, but for you, start us off with that, Marcus, and then we'll go over to Michael, and then we'll go over to Mary to close us out with some final words, and then we'll get your contact information. Take it away, Marcus.
Okay, so first of all, before I answer these two important questions, I'd just like to say that I'm a humongous fan, and it's an honor for Mike, because you're not understanding. I've been a music producer for 20 years, composer and everything. I started because I got an MC Hammer CD, period. I wanted to be his music producer. So it's an honor to meet a legend, and I'm honored, period.
I'm home. Do not know how to deal with that.
So, period. So to answer your question, sir, I just, number one, I just think that if people understand that, you know, you have to do more research, you have to understand what it is. If your child is showing certain behaviors, if they're hyperactive, if they're maybe having a tantrum, if they're, whatever their behavior is, instead of using a belt or using some type of restrictional consequence to understand them, please sit them down. If they cannot verbally speak, help write a letter or whatever you have to do more research to understand where your child is or where your grandchild is or wherever the person is, so you can be able to formally communicate. You can't communicate if you don't understand. So you have to do research and you have to ask questions. I think us in this community, we don't want to ask questions because we feel like we know what we're doing. So why do we need to ask questions? But sometimes a behavior will make you ask a question. You have to ask questions and do proper research. And the second one is, if those people who are experiencing autism may want to give up, or your family may not understand you, do not give up on anybody that has autism on the spectrum or anything else, because again, like Mike said, the thought and the behavior and the thinking is different. And you don't know whether you giving up on the president, a congressperson, the next lawyer, the next, you don't know who you giving up on. And it is not where you start, it's where you finish. Nobody knew that I was gonna graduate from college and have a bachelor's degree or anything else. When I was told when I was 13 that I speak at a 2-year-old's level, I was still using the bathroom on myself at 14. Nobody knew this stuff. But thank God, like Mike said, I do have a team now. My team too makes sure I'm good. We do have daily conversations and prayer. It's just, autism is not going to go away. It's not an STD or HIV. It's not going to go away. And I totally agree with Mike. We do have to fight with the mental part and the racial part of this. So, never give up. And if God didn't give up on us, then who are we to give up on autism?
Marcus, that was said so amazing, brother. Please send me a Facebook request. We got a couple of pages, Dr. Larry White Sr., also Larry Concierge White. Would love to connect with you, Marcus, and also Mike as well. All right, Mike, same question. Take about a minute or two to answer that same question, and then Mary Mitchell will take us home.
I'm just going to echo Marcus, because he put it in a fine bow, if you will. There has to be this overall overarching understanding that your child is unique, regardless of what traditional sense of training or rearing of a child is in your head or in your past. You have to change that mindset. If you don't change that mindset, then what tends to happen is the parent then goes back to what they consider traditional, and then they treat the child in that way. And so what starts to happen is all of the things that a parent thinks, or even the community, the village thinks is supposed to happen with that child to make them behave right or to make them sit still, or each child needs to be dealt with on an individual basis. If this does not happen, then you wind up creating a scenario for the child themselves where they start to feel isolated. They start to feel like nobody really is caring about the way I'm feeling, the way I'm seeing things, what I'm hearing. And people on the autism spectrum in general are serial observers. Marcus will tell you this. That's why many of us are attracted to industries that are generally entertainment, because we are serial observers. Now, the bottom line is having people understand that, people like yourself taking that information, absorbing it, and then saying, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's the information that we have to put out there. Mary and I have talked about this on many occasions. Autism awareness is great. It's great to be aware. There are a lot of things that we're aware of. We are aware that pollution can kill us, but we still live in it. We are cautious. We make sure that we protect ourselves to a certain degree. But awareness does not do anything more than acknowledge that something is there. Acceptance, however, is actionable. We have to be more accepting that our children and our adults, because we grow up to be autistic adults, it doesn't go away, need to have a certain amount of understanding given to that circumstance. Sometimes it's going to be up to us to make the decision, but it's much harder for us and takes much longer because we're always laser focused on a certain thing. So having other people as our allies to understand that, hey, this is something we need to accept, not just be aware of. Everybody's aware that autistic people exist, but acceptance is actionable. And that's really the part of this that works. I already talked about the racial aspect of this. We can go to another show about that. But acceptance is really the key here because it's actionable. When you accept, then you actually start doing something to help.
Look, Mike, I want to thank you so much for putting that and breaking it down, awareness, but more importantly, accepting. So I wanted this show not just to be aware, but now that you made that clear, just to disseminate. Shout out to Dr. Glenice. She's in Atlanta. Y'all connect with Dr. Glenice. She was on the show yesterday. And thank you so much, my sister, for chiming in. You're absolutely amazing, Dr. Glenice. Shout out to Tresetta Alexander, who's listening in from Tallahassee, Florida. And we accept this autism challenge to be more aware and use your platform and get this information out. Let's do contact information with Marcus and Michael, and then we'll have a quick summary from Mary. Marcus, if folks are trying to contact you, do you have a website or email address, phone number you would like to give out at this time, Marcus?
Yeah. If people want to contact me, they can go on Facebook.com. Marcus Boyd or Strozier is one of them, and then Instagram is autism activist Marcus Boyd.
Absolutely, Marcus. Thank you so much. You made me a better man today. I'm gonna go talk to my wife and my children as we're quarantined in here through COVID-19. I woke up this morning. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, I gotta not so much wing it, but I knew with Mary and you guys, y'all would be able to professionally speak on these topics. I'm more of a marketing, branding, advertising guy, and I'm a connector. So this has been very informative for me and my audience today. And I'll listen out for Mary so we can figure out if we can do this once a week moving forward in the month of April and beyond as well. Michael, super producer, we got to get together offline. I've been messing around with, I don't know if you've been looking at the IG battles with Timberland and Swiss Beats and, trying to do this social conscious thing, and Teddy Riley and Babyface was going to go at it the other night, but Teddy came and let everybody know he did not back out. Babyface was actually sick. So, but it's just been really good stuff. So I called my buddy who bought my book the other day. I was a keynote speaker at his retirement ceremony. Oh, by the way, which one of y'all said military? Was it you, Mike? Military, right?
Yeah.
Which branch?
I was in the Navy.
So I knew MC Hammer was in the Navy, and I just didn't want to. So I'm a Navy guy as well. So first of all, I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, yeah. So that's good stuff right there. But give us some contact information, and how people can get a hold to you. And do you have any upcoming events? I know things are kind of on pause right now. We've had to postpone some things, but give us your contact information and tell us about some of your upcoming events that you're going to do after this pandemic is over.
Okay, my contact information is really simple. It's official hot mic, the word official, hot mic altogether.com. And you can connect with me anywhere from my website. I'm on IG, Facebook, Twitter. It's all there in little buttons on the website. So you can contact me any kind of way. Also, if you want to contact me through email, my email address is booking, BOOKING, at, of course, officialhotmic.com. So booking at officialhotmic.com, and you can send me any kind of messages, any kind of information, any kind of project that you would like to consider, or if you just want me to do a speaking engagement somewhere, that's where you would contact me. But my website is all encompassing. Events, I do have, it's not an event, but it is a speaking engagement with the board of advisors that I sit on. It's an organization called YIC Unity. YICunity.org is an organization that I'm on the board of, where we train people on the autism spectrum to work in the music industry as roadies, sound engineers. We also help them with training and internships in different fields in the music industry. So we're going to have a meeting somewhere around April 28th. So I'll have that going. As you mentioned, stuff is still kind of up in the air, but you never know. My team currently, as we speak, are working to, one, get the resources to build the thing that I want to build, which is a one-of-a-kind audio sound recording R&D facility that we can have as Black people to develop our own audio technology, technology for people who cannot hear, but when they see something, that we can connect audio to the visual. So at the moment, those are big things. Oh, and the book, of course. Working on getting a publisher and setting that whole thing up too. So I got a lot going on, even though things are kind of quiet. Yeah. But
well, this is, and listen, this is this downtime is really good for us to finish these books and finish some of these projects. I know since the pandemic, I got a new roof put on the house and some other things that I needed to get done. But if you need some tips, I can help you, Mike, on how to low cost self-publish your book. A lot of folks get into some real bad publishing deals. Writing books are very easy. The publication and editing. I'm a self-published author, and I can show you how to do it for a couple of $100. The fact of the matter is that this pandemic will leave financial strains for many years to come. The aftermath of this is going to be something horrific, and I think it's great. And I'm glad Mary empowered me to have this show. Normally we're doing some things about books and networking and things. So this is new to me, and I learned a lot from you and Marcus. So thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you, my brothers. Listen, let's go over to Mary Mitchell, Queen Mother Mary, as she calls it, my bonus mother. Summarize the show. Mary, give us a quick summary, and I'll round it out with the outro. We'll go over to Queen Mother Mary.
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone and especially Dr. Larry for allowing us this platform. And, you know, when I was thinking about it, I wanted to go beyond the part of, you know, talking about diagnosis, testing, things in school, because my whole thing is about storytelling, and who best to tell the story than people who have had the experience. So thank you for the platform, for allowing these fine gentlemen in Atlanta to speak their story. And I really appreciate the fact that you are willing to have us to expand more. And I can say that, you know, the reason that I contacted these gentlemen is kind of, again, all focused on Elijah, because we talked a little bit about the Afrocentric community and everything like that. And there are lots of examples of people who have autism who perhaps don't have melanin in the skin, but I want young Black boys in particular to have role models, people to look at who have made it over all the obstacles and come out shining. So thank you for being those shining stars out there in the community. And thank you, Dr. Larry. If anyone wants to contact me, the best thing, because I'm doing case management, is to use my phone, which is 804-690-4800. But my media company is Chrysalis Studios, and I'm on all the media. So thank you once again, and I love you all.
Well, look, shout out to Marcus Boyd, Michael Buckholtz, Mary Mitchell. We will be in Atlanta once this pandemic is over. Shout out to Cynthia Green, Dr. Denise, everybody. I'll do a little something different. I'm gonna take us out with this song that I've been listening to for a couple of days. And I guess I gotta say this disclaimer, FYI, we're broadcasting live on Facebook Live on 2 different pages. I'll explain that to y'all later on offline. And then the replay will be done on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and IG. So you're gonna get, this replay is gonna go good. So I'm an R&B guy. I love R&B music. Thought I could be an R&B singer. And look, I still got it, y'all. I'm not singing today, by the way. But I sung happy birthday to a buddy of mine, his wife, last week. It was her birthday, and I sung happy birthday. And she had a stroke, and she was recovering from the stroke. And you know, just shout out to Robert Boyd and Tanja Boyd. But I threw some vocals out there, Queen Mother Mary, Marcus, and Mike. And man, they text me, they're like, "Hey, you made her cry." I'm like, man, you know, I was like, hey, I could have been a decent backup singer with some beats with you and Marcus, Mike. I would have been all right. You know what I'm saying? So we got to figure that out. But listen, I'm gonna ride us out. Facebook, I do not own the rights to this song, but it's just this beat, is this song. I just want to, once y'all hear it for a few seconds, I'm gonna kill the broadcast, but I'm gonna send us out with a little bit of Usher and P. Diddy Combs, okay? And here we go. One of my favorite jams right here. It's gonna come up, and it's just so. And I want to just say this. That's why I'm playing this. Andre Harrell fired Puff Daddy Combs. My wife fired him, and he fired him. He was an intern at Howard University. He fired him. He was messing up. He was showing up late. Andre Harrell did the right thing. Years later, Sean would be who he was with all his artists, and he would have to, he didn't have to, but he hired Andre back. And now he's a billionaire, Sean Puff Combs. And I just look at his journey, like, and the excuses, like, Marcus, you had no excuse today. Michael, you had no excuse today. We can be very, very successful, but the amount of excuses people give us every day of why they can't wake up and operate in excellence. I wrote a book on it, Operating in Excellence, amen? So that's the, I should have got y'all to the instrumental. Mike, we're gonna see you in the ATL. Marcus, we're gonna see you in the ATL. Queen Mother Mary, I'm gonna leave y'all out here with Usher and Sean Puff Daddy Combs. This has been a Dr. Larry White Senior Show, and I've learned from my brother, Mike, it's not about autism awareness, but accepting that whole armor and understanding so we can be in action to help move it out. So God bless you all, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.